Welcome to Monk's Temple. Close your eyes for just a moment. Not necessarily to sleep, but to turn your attention inward. Feel the weight of your body against whatever is supporting it. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath, moving in and out like a soft tide upon the shore. You are here. You have arrived. And in this space, there is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go, no one you need to impress. This moment belongs entirely to you. Now, I want you to think about the last conversation you had. Not the words that were exchanged, but the feeling beneath them. Did you feel truly heard? Did the other person's eyes meet yours in a way that suggested you were the only person in the world at that moment? Or did you feel their attention drifting, their mind already forming a response while you were still speaking? Perhaps you have been on the other side of that equation. Perhaps you have been the one whose mind wandered, whose fingers itched to check a phone, whose lips parted to interrupt before the other person had finished. There is a reason for this. There is a reason why genuine connection feels so rare in our modern world. We have been trained, systematically and relentlessly, to value output over input. We are rewarded for speaking, for contributing, for having opinions. From the moment we enter school, we are told to raise our hands, to share our thoughts, to make ourselves heard. The quiet child is often overlooked. The thoughtful pause is mistaken for confusion. We grow up believing that our voice is our ticket to belonging. But there is a deeper wisdom, an ancient wisdom, that whispers a different truth. It tells us that the doorway to the human heart is not through speaking, but through listening. It tells us that the most beloved people in any community are not necessarily the most eloquent or the most entertaining. They are the ones who make others feel seen. They are the ones who offer the rare and precious gift of their complete attention. Let me share with you a story. It is a story about a man named Daniel, who lived in a bustling city and worked in a towering office building. Daniel was successful by any external measure. He had a corner office, a respectable title, and a salary that allowed him comforts many could only dream of. But Daniel carried a secret weight. In meetings, his ideas were often dismissed. In conversations with colleagues, he felt like he was speaking into a void. At home, his wife would tell him about her day, and he would nod along, but his mind was still trapped in the unsolved problems of the office. He felt like a ghost haunting his own life. One evening, Daniel attended a gathering at a friend's house. The room was filled with people, the air thick with overlapping conversations and the clinking of glasses. Daniel found himself standing near a corner, holding a drink he didn't really want, feeling invisible. Then an older man approached him. He was unremarkable in appearance, simply dressed, with kind eyes that seemed to hold a deep calm. He introduced himself as Samuel. Daniel expected the usual polite conversation. Where do you work? What do you do? How do you know the host? But Samuel asked none of these things. Instead, he looked at Daniel with genuine curiosity and said, "You look like someone who is carrying something heavy. Would you like to set it down for a while?" Daniel was startled. No one had ever spoken to him like that. He found himself nodding, and then, to his own surprise, he began to talk. He talked about the pressures of his job. He talked about the loneliness of his success. He talked about the distance he felt from his wife, from his children, from himself. He talked for what felt like a long time. And throughout it all, Samuel simply listened. He did not offer advice. He did not share his own stories. He did not try to fix anything. He just listened, his eyes soft, his presence steady, like a great tree offering shelter from the rain. When Daniel finally fell silent, he felt a strange sensation. It was lightness. The weight he had been carrying, the burden he had described, had not been solved or removed. But somehow, having been witnessed, having been truly heard, it felt lighter. He looked at Samuel with a gratitude he could not put into words. Samuel just smiled gently and said, "You are not alone. You never were. You just forgot that someone might want to listen." In that moment, Daniel understood something profound. All his life, he had been trying to be interesting, to be impressive, to be worthy of attention. But what he had really needed, what every human being truly needs, was simply to be heard. And the man who gave him that gift was not the loudest or most charming person in the room. He was the one who knew how to listen. If this story touches something in you, if you recognize in yourself a longing for deeper connection, or a desire to become the kind of person who offers that gift to others, then I invite you to walk this path with us. This is a journey of transformation, and it happens one small step at a time. Please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. It is a simple gesture, but it is a powerful commitment to your own growth. By subscribing, you are telling yourself that you are ready to learn, ready to change, ready to become a more present and compassionate human being. Click the subscribe button now, and let us continue this journey together. Let us now turn to the source of this wisdom. Long before the age of smartphones and constant distraction, long before the noise of modern life became a permanent backdrop to our existence, there lived one who understood the profound power of silence. His name was the Buddha, and his entire teaching was born from listening. Not listening to lectures or scriptures, but listening to life itself. He sat under the Bodhi tree and listened to the truth of impermanence in every passing breath. He listened to the cry of suffering that echoes through every human heart. And because he listened so deeply, he was able to offer a path that has helped countless beings find peace. The Buddha did not teach through complex theories or abstract philosophies alone. He taught through presence. He taught through the quality of attention he brought to every single being who crossed his path. There is a story, one you may not have heard, that illustrates this beautifully. A woman once came to the Buddha carrying her sick child. She was exhausted, frightened, and desperate. She had traveled for days, hearing rumors of a great teacher who could perform miracles. She pushed through the crowd of monks and stood before him, tears streaming down her face. Her body trembled. Her voice cracked with exhaustion. "Please," she begged, holding out her child. "Please heal my son. I have tried everything. The doctors cannot help. The medicines do nothing. He grows weaker each day. Please, you must do something. You are my last hope." The Buddha looked at her. He looked at the child sleeping fitfully in her arms. And then he did something unexpected. He did not chant a prayer. He did not lay his hands on the boy. He did not promise a miracle. He simply said, in a voice as gentle as rainfall, "Tell me everything." The woman was confused. She wanted action, not conversation. She wanted a solution, not a listening ear. But something in the Buddha's voice, something in the gentle stillness of his eyes, something in the way he held absolutely no agenda, made her begin. She told him about the child's birth, about the joy he had brought into their small home. She told him about the first signs of illness, the fever that would not break, the sleepless nights spent walking the floor with a crying baby. She told him about the failed treatments, the expensive doctors who offered no hope, the growing fear that she would lose the one person she loved most in the world. She talked until her voice grew hoarse, until she had no more words left. She talked about her husband who had left them, about the neighbors who whispered behind her back, about the loneliness that had become her constant companion. Throughout it all, the Buddha just listened. He did not interrupt. He did not offer solutions. He did not tell her that everything would be okay. He simply received her fear, her pain, her love, her desperation. He held it all in the vast space of his awareness, like the earth receives the rain, without judgment, without resistance. His presence was like a great container, large enough to hold all of her suffering without breaking. When she finally stopped, exhausted and empty, she looked at him. He had not healed her child. He had not performed a miracle. But somehow, she felt different. The terrible isolation of her suffering had been broken. Someone had finally heard her. Someone had finally seen her. Someone had finally walked into the dark cave of her despair and simply sat down beside her. The Buddha then spoke softly. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of complete understanding. "I cannot heal your son," he said. "That is not my gift. I have no magic to offer you. But I can walk with you. I can sit with you. I can hold your hand while you walk through this darkness. And sometimes, that is what we need most. Not a miracle, but a companion. Not a solution, but someone who will not run away from our pain." The woman did not leave with her child healed. But she left with something perhaps more precious. She left with the knowledge that she was not alone. She left with the memory of being truly seen. And in the days that followed, she found a strength she did not know she possessed. She found the courage to face whatever came, because someone had shown her that her suffering mattered, that her story was worth hearing, that she was worthy of attention simply because she existed. This is the essence of the Buddha's teaching on listening. It is not about fixing. It is about being present. It is not about having answers. It is about holding space. When we listen to another person in this way, we are not just being polite. We are not just passing time. We are practicing the highest form of compassion. We are saying, without words, your pain is my pain. Your story matters. You matter. I will stay with you in this moment, no matter how difficult it is. And here is the psychological truth beneath this ancient wisdom. The human brain is wired for connection. When we feel heard, our nervous system calms. The stress response diminishes. The heart rate slows. The body releases oxytocin, the hormone of bonding and trust. We literally feel safer, more at peace, more alive. This is not just philosophy. This is biology. This is how we are made. We are social creatures, and our deepest need is to belong, to be seen, to be understood. So when you listen deeply to someone, you are not just being kind. You are creating the conditions for healing. You are offering a refuge from the storm of their own mind. You are becoming, in that moment, a small version of the Buddha himself. And in a world where so many feel unseen, unheard, and alone, this is the greatest gift you can give. This is the gift that will make people start to love you, not for what you say, but for how fully you are willing to listen. Now we must ask ourselves a difficult question. If listening is such a powerful force, if it is the very foundation of connection and compassion, then why is it so hard? Why do we struggle to offer this gift to those we love? Why do our minds wander when others speak? Why do we feel that constant itch to interrupt, to share our own story, to offer advice before the other person has even finished? The answer lies in understanding the nature of the mind itself. The Buddha described the mind as a monkey, constantly jumping from branch to branch, never still, never satisfied. This monkey mind is always grasping for something new, something interesting, something that confirms its own existence. When someone else is speaking, the monkey mind grows restless. It wants to be the speaker, not the listener. It wants to be center stage, not the audience. It wants to contribute, to prove itself, to show how smart or helpful or experienced it is. This is not a flaw in you. This is the conditioned nature of the human mind. We have been trained our entire lives to value output over input. From childhood, we are praised for speaking up, for having answers, for being quick and clever. The quiet child is often overlooked. The thoughtful pause is mistaken for confusion. We grow up believing that our voice is our ticket to belonging, that our words are what make us valuable. But there is another force at work as well, a deeper psychological force. When we listen to someone else's pain, their words can trigger our own unresolved suffering. They talk about loss, and suddenly we feel the echo of our own grief. They talk about failure, and our own insecurities rise to the surface. They talk about anger, and we feel our own frustration stirring. To protect ourselves from these uncomfortable feelings, we jump in. We change the subject. We offer quick fixes. We share our own story to shift the focus away from their pain and back to ourselves. Let me share a story about this. A woman named Elena had a younger sister named Sophia. They were close in age but very different in temperament. Elena was outgoing, confident, always the center of attention. Sophia was quiet, thoughtful, more comfortable on the edges of any gathering. When they were children, Elena would often speak for Sophia, answering questions directed at her sister, finishing her sentences, explaining what Sophia really meant. She thought she was helping. She thought she was protecting her shy sister from the discomfort of social situations. Years passed. They grew into adults. Elena became a successful lawyer, known for her sharp mind and quick tongue. Sophia became a painter, working alone in her studio, expressing herself through color and form rather than words. They loved each other, but there was always a distance between them, an invisible wall that neither could quite explain. One evening, Sophia came to Elena's apartment. Her eyes were red. Her hands trembled slightly. A gallery showing that meant everything to her had fallen through. The curator had chosen another artist. Sophia felt crushed, invisible, worthless. She sat on Elena's couch and began to speak, her voice small and broken. Elena listened for perhaps 30 seconds. Then her training kicked in. Her mind began racing through solutions. "You need to call the curator," she said. "You need to advocate for yourself. I can write you a letter. I know people on the board. Let me make some calls. This is not the end. You just need to be more aggressive. You need to sell yourself better." Sophia fell silent. The small light of vulnerability in her eyes flickered and died. She nodded mechanically, thanked her sister for the advice, and left shortly after. Elena felt satisfied. She had helped. She had provided solutions. She had done what a good sister should do. But days later, Sophia did not return her calls. Weeks passed. The distance between them grew into a chasm. Finally, Elena confronted her. "What did I do wrong?" she asked, genuinely confused. "I was only trying to help." Sophia looked at her with sad eyes. "You didn't hear me," she said. "You never heard me. I didn't need a lawyer. I didn't need a fixer. I needed my sister. I needed someone to sit with me in my disappointment and just let me feel it. But you couldn't do that. You had to make it better. You had to solve it. And in doing so, you made me feel like my feelings were a problem to be solved, not a reality to be shared." Elena was stunned. In that moment, she saw herself clearly for the first time. All her life, she had believed she was helping. But really, she had been running. Running from the discomfort of sitting with another's pain. Running from the vulnerability of simply being present. Her quick mind, her sharp tongue, her endless solutions, they were not strengths. They were shields. They protected her from the messy, uncomfortable, beautiful reality of human emotion. This is the great paradox. We think we are helping when we offer solutions. We think we are being useful when we share our own experiences. But often, we are simply avoiding the one thing that is truly required of us, our full, present, silent attention. The Buddha understood this. He knew that the greatest gift is not wisdom or advice. It is presence. It is the willingness to sit with another being in their darkness, without trying to light a match, without trying to find the exit, without trying to do anything except be there. So the first step in becoming a better listener is not learning new techniques. It is understanding your own defenses. It is seeing how your mind uses words to protect itself from discomfort. It is recognizing that the urge to speak is often the urge to flee. And in that recognition, in that moment of awareness, you have a choice. You can stay. You can breathe. You can be present. You can offer the gift that no solution can ever replace, the gift of yourself. Let us now turn to the practical question that arises naturally from this understanding. How do we begin to transform ourselves? How do we move from being someone who merely hears to someone who truly listens? The path is not complicated, but it requires something that modern life constantly erodes: deliberate practice. The Buddha offered a profound teaching on this. He said that all words are pre-processed in the mind. Before a single syllable leaves your lips, it has already traveled through the landscape of your thoughts. It has been shaped by your memories, colored by your emotions, filtered through your judgments. This means that the quality of your speech is directly connected to the quality of your mind. And the quality of your listening is also connected to the quality of your mind. A chaotic mind produces chaotic listening. A still mind produces deep listening. This is why the Buddha placed such emphasis on mindfulness, on the practice of observing your own thoughts without getting caught in them. In Buddhism, this is called cittanipassana, the contemplation of consciousness. It is the art of sitting quietly and simply watching what arises in your mind, like sitting on the bank of a river and watching the water flow past. You do not jump into the river. You do not try to stop the water. You do not judge some currents as good and others as bad. You simply sit and watch. A thought about work appears. You notice it. You do not begin planning your presentation. You just note, thinking. A memory from childhood arises. You do not get lost in nostalgia. You just note, remembering. An anxiety about the future surfaces. You do not start worrying. You just note, fearing. Thought after thought, you simply observe. This practice is like weight training for your attention. Each time you notice a thought and gently return to observing, you are building the muscle of mindfulness. And this muscle is exactly what you need when you are in conversation with another person. When they are speaking, and your mind begins to wander, that muscle allows you to notice the wandering and gently bring your attention back. When the urge to interrupt arises, that muscle allows you to notice the urge and choose not to act on it. When their words trigger an emotional reaction in you, that muscle allows you to feel the reaction without being controlled by it. Let me share a story about a man named Marcus who discovered this truth through an unlikely teacher. Marcus was a busy executive. His days were filled with back-to-back meetings, endless emails, and constant decisions. He prided himself on his efficiency, his ability to process information quickly and make decisions rapidly. But his wife often told him that he never really listened. He would hear her words, but he missed her meaning. He would respond to her statements, but not to her feelings. Marcus dismissed this at first. He was providing for his family. He was successful. What more did she want? But over time, the distance between them grew. His children also stopped sharing their lives with him. Dinner conversations became monologues about his work, followed by silence. He felt like a stranger in his own home. One weekend, his wife convinced him to attend a silent retreat. Marcus agreed reluctantly, expecting a weekend of boredom and discomfort. The retreat was held at a simple center in the countryside. There were no phones, no conversations, no distractions. Just silence. For the first few hours, Marcus was restless. His mind raced. He thought about work. He thought about the football game he was missing. He thought about how ridiculous this whole thing was. But then, something shifted. In the silence, he began to notice his thoughts in a way he never had before. He saw how they constantly jumped from past to future, from regret to worry, from judgment to planning. He saw how rarely his mind was actually present in the present moment. He saw, for the first time, the chaos that lived inside him. By the end of the second day, the chaos began to settle. The spaces between thoughts grew longer. He started to notice things he had been blind to for years. The way the afternoon light fell on the wooden floor, the distant call of a bird, the feeling of his own breath moving through his body. He felt a peace he had not felt since childhood. When he returned home, his wife noticed something different immediately. That evening, when she began to tell him about a difficult situation at work, Marcus did not interrupt. He did not offer solutions. He just sat and listened. His mind wandered once or twice, but he noticed the wandering and gently brought himself back. When she finished, she looked at him with surprise and said, "You were really here just now. You were really with me." In that moment, Marcus understood. The silence of the retreat had not been an escape from life. It had been training for life. It had taught him how to be present. And presence, he now knew, was the foundation of everything. This is the path for all of us. We cannot give what we do not possess. If our own minds are a storm, we cannot offer calm to others. If our own attention is scattered, we cannot offer focus to others. The practice of sitting in silence, of watching our own thoughts, is not selfish. It is the most selfless thing we can do. Because it is only by cultivating stillness within ourselves that we can offer stillness to the world. So begin where you are. Sit for 5 minutes today. Just watch your breath, watch your thoughts. Tomorrow, do it again. This small practice, repeated consistently, will change everything. It will transform you from someone who hears into someone who listens. And the people in your life will feel the difference, even if they cannot name it. They will feel seen. They will feel valued. They will feel loved. And they will be drawn to you, not for what you say, but for the silent presence you have cultivated within yourself. Now let us explore a dimension of listening that is rarely discussed. We have spoken about listening to others, and we have spoken about listening to our own minds through meditation. But there is another layer, a deeper layer, that transforms listening from a simple interpersonal skill into a spiritual practice. This is the art of listening to what lies beneath the words. Every person who speaks to you is communicating on multiple levels simultaneously. There are the words themselves, the surface meaning that anyone can hear. But beneath the words, there is a current of emotion. Beneath the emotion, there is a history, a lifetime of experiences that have shaped how this person sees the world. And beneath that history, there is a fundamental human longing, the longing to be seen, to be accepted, to be loved. When you listen only to the words, you hear the surface. When you listen to the emotion, you begin to understand the person. When you listen to the longing, you touch their very soul. The Buddha understood this perfectly. He did not just hear the complaints of those who came to him. He heard the suffering behind the complaints. He did not just listen to the questions. He listened to the confusion and fear that gave birth to the questions. He met people not at the level of their words, but at the level of their hearts. Let me share a story about a woman named Priya who discovered this deeper dimension of listening through an unexpected encounter. Priya worked at a community center in a diverse neighborhood. Her job was to assist newcomers, many of them immigrants and refugees, in navigating the complexities of their new lives. She helped them find housing, apply for jobs, enroll their children in school. She was good at her job, efficient and knowledgeable. But there was one man who frustrated her deeply. His name was Ahmed. He was an elderly gentleman from a country torn by war. He came to the center almost every day, always with a new problem. His apartment was too cold. His neighbors were unfriendly. The food at the grocery store was strange. The forms were too complicated. Every conversation with Ahmed felt like a battle. Priya would explain things clearly, and he would nod, and then return the next day with the same complaints. One afternoon, after Ahmed had left, Priya complained to her supervisor. "He doesn't listen," she said. "I tell him the same things over and over, and he just keeps coming back with the same problems. I don't know what he wants from me." Her supervisor, an older woman named Helen who had worked at the center for decades, looked at Priya with gentle eyes. "Have you ever asked him what he has lost?" Helen said softly. The question stopped Priya cold. She realized that in all her interactions with Ahmed, she had been focused on solving his practical problems. She had never once asked about his life before. She had never asked about the home he had left behind, the family he might have lost, the grief he carried every single day. The next time Ahmed came in, Priya did something different. She brought him a cup of tea, sat down beside him, and said, "Ahmed, I have been trying to help you with so many things. But I realize I have never asked you about your life. Will you tell me about where you came from?" Ahmed was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he began to speak. He told her about the small village where he was born, the olive trees his family had tended for generations, the house his grandfather had built with his own hands. He told her about the war, the bombs that fell at night, the day he had to flee with nothing but the clothes on his back. He told her about the son he had lost, the wife who did not survive the journey, the grandchildren he would never know. He talked for over an hour. Priya just listened. She did not offer solutions. She did not try to fix anything. She just held the space for his grief. When he finally finished, tears were streaming down both their faces. Ahmed looked at her, and for the first time, he smiled. Not a polite smile, but a real smile, a smile of connection. "Thank you," he said. "No one has asked me that before. No one has wanted to know." After that day, something shifted. Ahmed still came to the center, but his complaints diminished. Sometimes he just came to sit and have tea with Priya. He had not needed his practical problems solved as much as he had needed someone to witness his life, to acknowledge his losses, to see the whole person behind the endless requests. This is the deeper listening. This is what it means to hear not just the words, but the world behind the words. When you listen in this way, you are not just helping someone with a temporary problem. You are offering them the most fundamental human gift, recognition. You are saying, "I see you. I see your whole story. I see your pain and your strength. You exist in my eyes, and therefore you exist more fully in your own." This kind of listening requires patience. It requires the willingness to set aside your own agenda, your own judgments, your own need to be efficient. It requires you to slow down enough to let the other person's world unfold before you. But the reward is immeasurable. When you listen in this way, you become a healer. Not because you have special powers, but because you have offered the one thing that every wounded heart craves, the gift of being truly known. Let us now examine one of the greatest obstacles to deep listening, an obstacle so common that we barely recognize it as a problem. It is the habit of listening only to reply. We enter conversations with our minds already forming responses, already preparing our own stories, already crafting the perfect piece of advice. We are not truly present with the speaker. We are simply waiting for our turn to speak. This is so ingrained in us that it feels natural. Someone shares a difficulty, and we immediately think of a time we faced something similar. Someone expresses an opinion, and we immediately begin constructing our counterargument. Someone describes a joy, and we immediately search our memory for a comparable experience so we can share it. We call this connection, but often it is just competition dressed in friendly clothing. The Buddha addressed this directly. He taught that there is a vast difference between hearing and listening, and an even vaster difference between listening to reply and listening to understand. When you listen to reply, you are using the other person's words as raw material for your own performance. When you listen to understand, you are surrendering your own agenda completely. You are entering their world rather than inviting them into yours. Let me share a story about a young man named Kevin who discovered this distinction through a painful experience. Kevin was a natural storyteller. In any gathering, he was the one people gathered around, laughing at his anecdotes, captivated by his adventures. He prided himself on his wit, his charm, his ability to hold an audience. But over time, he noticed something troubling. People would laugh with him, but they rarely confided in him. They enjoyed his company, but they did not seek his comfort. He was the life of the party, but he was not the friend people called in crisis. One evening, Kevin was at a small dinner party. A woman named Rachel, whom he had known for years, began to share something deeply personal. Her mother had been diagnosed with a serious illness, and Rachel was struggling with the weight of being the primary caregiver. Her voice trembled. Her eyes glistened. The room grew quiet. Kevin listened for perhaps 30 seconds. Then his mind began to work. He remembered when his own grandmother was ill. He remembered the hospital visits, the difficult decisions, the complex emotions. He had a story. A good story. A story that would show Rachel he understood. Before Rachel had even finished describing her situation, Kevin jumped in. "That reminds me of when my grandmother was sick," he said, launching into his tale. He told it well. People nodded. A few even chuckled at the humorous parts. When he finished, he looked at Rachel, expecting gratitude for sharing his experience. But Rachel's face had closed. The vulnerability was gone, replaced by a polite mask. "That's nice, Kevin," she said quietly, and then she excused herself to the kitchen. Kevin felt a strange emptiness. He had done what he always did. He had connected through story. But somehow, it had landed wrong. Later that evening, Rachel's best friend approached him. "You hurt her tonight," the friend said simply. "She was opening her heart, and you made it about yourself. She needed a witness, not a competitor." The words hit Kevin like a physical blow. A competitor. He had never thought of it that way. But as he reflected on his life, on his countless conversations, he saw the truth. He had been competing for attention, for sympathy, for the role of the most interesting person in the room. Even when others were suffering, he found a way to redirect the spotlight to himself. He was not listening to understand. He was listening for his opening. This realization was the beginning of a long transformation for Kevin. He did not become silent overnight. His natural storytelling ability was a gift, not a curse. But he began to practice something new. He began to notice when the urge to share his own story arose, and he began to ask himself a simple question. Does this person need my story right now, or do they need my presence? More often than not, the answer was presence. More often than not, the person just needed to be heard. Kevin learned to sit with his own stories, to hold them silently, to let the other person have the floor for as long as they needed. He discovered that his stories were not diminished by being unspoken. They were still his. But by withholding them, he created space for others to share theirs. And something remarkable happened. People began to seek him out. Not for entertainment, but for comfort. They started to confide in him, to trust him with their deepest fears and hopes. He became the person people called in crisis. He had not become less interesting. He had become more present. And presence, he learned, is far more valuable than performance. This is the practice for all of us. In your next conversation, notice when the urge to share your own story arises. Ask yourself, am I listening to understand, or am I just waiting for my turn? If you are waiting, gently let go of your prepared response and return your attention to the speaker. Your story will still be there later. But this moment of connection, this opportunity to truly witness another human being, will not come again. The Buddha taught that the greatest gift is the gift of presence. When you listen without preparing your reply, you offer that gift. You say, without words, you are enough. Your story is enough. I need nothing from this conversation except to be with you right now. This is the listening that heals. This is the listening that connects. This is the listening that makes people feel, perhaps for the first time, that they truly matter. There is another dimension of listening that we must explore, one that is often overlooked in discussions of communication. It is the art of listening to what is not being said. The spaces between words, the pauses, the sighs, the silences, these are not empty. They are full of meaning. They are the places where the deepest truths often hide. Human beings are complex. We do not always say what we mean, and we do not always mean what we say. Fear shapes our words. Pride edits them. Shame silences them. The person sitting across from you may be telling you about a minor frustration at work, but beneath that story, they may be crying out for validation, for reassurance, for love. If you listen only to the words, you will miss the cry entirely. The Buddha was a master of listening to the unspoken. He did not just hear the questions people brought to him. He heard the questions behind the questions, the fears behind the complaints, the longing behind the anger. He met people not where they pretended to be, but where they actually were. Let me share a story about a therapist named Dr. Chen who learned this lesson through a patient she will never forget. The patient was a man in his 50s, a successful architect named Robert. He came to therapy at his wife's insistence. He sat in the chair across from Dr. Chen with his arms crossed, his jaw tight, his eyes defiant. "I don't need to be here," he said. "My wife thinks I have problems." "I don't have problems. She's the one with problems." Dr. Chen could have responded to his words. She could have defended therapy, or challenged his denial, or explored why his wife thought he needed help. But instead, she listened to what was beneath the words. She heard the fear in his voice, the fear of being seen as weak, the fear of being vulnerable. She saw the tension in his shoulders, the way he held himself like a man preparing for battle. She noticed that his eyes, though defiant, were also sad. So she did not argue. She did not confront. She simply said, "You must love your wife very much, to come here even when you don't want to." Robert fell silent. His arms uncrossed slightly. He looked at her with surprise. No one had ever spoken to him like that. No one had ever seen past his defenses to the loyalty beneath. He began to cry, quietly, without understanding why. And in that moment, the real therapy began. Over the following months, Robert revealed the truth that his words had been hiding for decades. He was not just a successful architect. He was a man who had lost his father at a young age, who had been taught that men don't show emotion, who had buried his grief so deep that he had forgotten it existed. His anger, his defensiveness, his refusal to acknowledge problems, these were not his true self. They were walls he had built to protect a wound that had never healed. Dar. Chen had not heard his words. She had heard his silence. She had heard the cry behind the complaint. And because she listened at that deeper level, she was able to reach him in a way that no amount of clever interpretation or insightful advice could have achieved. This is the kind of listening we can all cultivate. It does not require a degree in psychology. It requires attention. It requires the willingness to look beyond the surface. It requires us to ask, not just, what is this person saying, but what is this person's heart trying to communicate? A child who says, I hate you, may be saying, I need you to prove that you love me no matter what. A partner who complains about a messy house may be saying, I need to feel that my efforts are seen and valued. A colleague who dismisses your ideas may be saying, I am afraid of being overshadowed, of becoming irrelevant. The words are just the surface. The truth is always deeper. In Buddhism, this is connected to the practice of compassion. When you listen beneath the words, you begin to see the suffering that drives all human behavior. You see that the angry person is suffering. You see that the critical person is suffering. You see that the distant, withdrawn person is suffering. And when you see suffering, it is much harder to judge, much harder to dismiss, much harder to hate. Compassion arises naturally, not because you are trying to be compassionate, but because you are finally seeing clearly. There is a simple practice you can try. In your next conversation, especially with someone you find difficult, make a silent agreement with yourself. For the duration of the conversation, you will listen not just to their words, but to the feeling behind them. When they criticize you, ask yourself, what are they afraid of? When they dismiss you, ask, what pain are they protecting? When they attack you, ask, what are they defending? You may not find the answers. You may never know the full story. But the act of asking, the act of listening beneath the surface, will change you. It will soften your reactions. It will open your heart. And sometimes, without any words at all, the other person will feel that shift. They will feel that you are trying to understand, rather than trying to win. And that feeling, that sense of being genuinely sought, can be the beginning of their own healing. The Buddha said that the greatest relief from suffering is to have it witnessed by a compassionate heart. When you listen to what is not being said, you become that witness. You offer that relief. And in doing so, you transform not only your relationships, but your own heart as well. Let us now turn our attention to a practice that may seem simple but is actually one of the most powerful tools for deepening connection. It is the art of asking questions. Not any questions, but questions that come from genuine curiosity. Questions that have no agenda. Questions that are not disguised attempts to steer the conversation toward your own interests, but are instead invitations for the other person to explore their own experience more deeply. Most of the questions we ask in daily life are superficial. How was your day? Fine. How are you? Good. These are social rituals, verbal handshakes that acknowledge presence without truly engaging it. They serve a purpose, but they are not the stuff of deep connection. The Buddha was a master of asking questions that opened hearts. He did not lecture constantly. he asked. He asked his followers about their experiences, their struggles, their insights. He asked questions that had no right answer, questions that invited reflection, questions that helped people discover truth for themselves. Let me share a story about a teacher named Mr. Harrison who discovered the power of questions in his classroom. He taught high school history. For years, he taught the same way: lectures, readings, tests. His students were polite but disengaged. They memorized dates for exams and then promptly forgot them. One year, he tried something different. He began his first class with a question. He wrote on the board, "What does freedom mean to you?" The students looked confused. This was history class. What did their opinions have to do with history? But Mr. Harrison just waited. Slowly, hands began to rise. A girl talked about freedom from her parents' expectations. A boy talked about freedom to choose his own career. Another talked about freedom to be who they really were without fear. The conversation became passionate, real. Mr. Harrison said almost nothing. He just asked follow-up questions. Tell me more about that. Why does that matter to you? By the end of class, something had shifted. These were not just students anymore. They were human beings who had shared something of themselves. And when Mr. Harrison later taught about the struggle for freedom throughout history, his students were engaged. Because someone had asked them a real question and had genuinely listened. This is the power of questions. They are bridges between separate worlds. When you ask someone a question and then truly listen, you are saying, your experience matters. You matter. This is one of the most affirming experiences a human being can have. The best questions are open-ended. They cannot be answered with a single word. They invite exploration. Instead of, "Did you have a good weekend?" try, "What was the most interesting part of your weekend?" Instead of, "Are you okay?" try, "What's been on your mind lately?" These questions give the other person permission to go deeper than the social script. Let me share another story, about a woman named Nora and her elderly father. Nora's father, William, had become withdrawn after her mother died. Nora would visit every Sunday. She would ask, "How are you, Dad?" He would say, "Fine." The conversation would die. She would leave feeling frustrated. One Sunday, Nora tried something different. She sat down next to her father and said, "Dad, tell me about a memory of Mom that you don't think I know." Her father looked surprised. For a long moment, he was silent. Then he smiled. He told her about the first time he saw her mother, at a dance in 1958. She was wearing a yellow dress. He was too shy to approach her, so he just watched her all night. It took him 3 weeks to ask her out. Nora had heard stories before, but never like this. Her father's eyes were alive. He talked for an hour, sharing memories she had never known. When she finally left, he hugged her tighter than he had in years. A simple question had opened a door that had been closed for decades. Not because the question was clever, but because it came from genuine curiosity. Nora had not asked to fill the silence. She asked because she genuinely wanted to know. And her father felt that. He felt seen. He felt valued. This is what questions can do. They reach past the defenses we all carry. They touch the places where our real lives are lived. They remind people that their story is worth telling, and that someone wants to hear it. So in your conversations this week, try asking one genuine question. Just one. A question you do not already know the answer to. A question that comes from real curiosity. And then, when they answer, just listen. Do not prepare your response. Do not think about what you will say next. Just receive their answer with your full attention. You may be surprised by what you learn, not just about them, but about the power of your own presence to invite the truth. As we come to the end of our time together, let us return to where we began. The simple truth that 2 ears and 1 mouth are not just a biological fact, but a teaching. A reminder that listening is twice as important as speaking. An invitation to a different way of being in the world. The path we have explored is not complicated, but it is not easy. It requires us to go against the current of a world that shouts for attention. It asks us to be still when everything in us wants to move. It invites us to receive when every instinct demands that we give. But those who walk this path discover something remarkable. The more they listen, the more they are heard. The more attention they give, the more attention they receive. The more they empty themselves of their own noise, the more the world rushes in to fill them with its beauty and its pain and its truth. The Buddha spent 45 years teaching after his enlightenment. But what was his teaching? It was not a collection of doctrines to be believed. It was an invitation to see clearly, to listen deeply, to be fully present. His entire life was a demonstration of attention. And because he paid attention, he saw what others missed. Because he listened, he heard what others could not hear. You have within you the same capacity. It is not reserved for monks in distant monasteries or sages in ancient texts. It is your birthright. The ability to listen deeply, to be fully present, to offer the gift of your attention, this is what makes us human. This is what connects us to each other. This is what allows love to flow. In the coming days, you will have countless opportunities to practice. A colleague who needs to vent. A child who wants to show you something. A partner who carries a hidden weight. A stranger who just needs to be seen. In each of these moments, you have a choice. You can rush through, offering quick words and distracted glances. Or you can stop. You can breathe. You can listen. Choose listening. Not because it will make people like you, though it will. Choose it because it is the most honest response to the miracle of another human being. Choose it because in listening, you become fully alive. Choose it because the person in front of you is a universe unto themselves, and you have been given the privilege of witnessing it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for lending your ears, your mind, your heart to these words. May the silence that follows this voice be fertile ground for your own growth. May you become a refuge for those who need to be heard. And may you discover, in the act of listening, the deepest truth of all. That we are not separate, that we belong to each other, that attention is the purest form of love. Go now, and listen.